What up, everyone? This is Mr. Lord Dr. Professor Dark Joker here with another edition of Traditional Fans with Opinions, where I'll give my reviews for whoever I watched, read, or played today. And who are traditional fans with opinions? That is myself, and that is you, the viewers. With all that being said, on with the reviews. One Piece, Season 22, Episodes 19 and 20. So in these episodes, so the God Knights are they're doing their attack. So Nami tells Drool about the intruders, and Colin he's trying to take weapons to like the other warriors to help, and the Straw Hats go with him on his ship, and Saul's unable to like he's unable to stop the kids from moving because they're brainwashed, and so and then Gory, Bragi, Gabon arrive to fight the monsters, and so they're setting up that next fight. So yeah, then after that so Zoro, Sanji, and one of Hydrogen's subordinates, they try to they go hunting, and then they show like, and after they do some hunting, Zoro and Sanji fight over, I guess, who did more or whatever. And Loki tries to take some food to Luffy tries to take some food to Loki, but yeah, he accidentally drops in and burns Loki, so Loki gets pissed, and Loki remembers Rox D. Zebek. So you hear Rox's voice, you know, basically, and he's going to be a very important character, especially with the God Valley movie being announced recently. That should be very that I will say that God Valley movie is my most anticipated movie for 2027. Like it was the Infinity Demon Slayer Infinity Castle Part 2. Now the God Valley movie is my most anticipated. And yeah, so this is I'm interested. So after that, so the the kids are being led to like this fire. Somber is looking. It wants to see them burn to death and to torment their parents because Somers is very messed up in the head. Like he is straight up evil. Like listen, I don't like I will not be surprised if Somers meets a very like a very like a very dark end in the manga, which he's still alive in the manga. And so, to be fair, most celestial dragons should most of them should die. Even though that probably gonna happen. But like so anyway, so then so Jinbei's able to throw some water to like stop the fire so the kids aren't burned, but they're still being brainwashed to head towards the ship. And so yeah, Gunko arrives on this Colin ship where the straw hat or some there are straw hats are at. So that fight's about to start, and so we'll get a tease for some of Gunko's backstory. You know, and then we'll see like what happens. But yeah, I thought this was a real. I thought this was a real. These were really good episodes. Yeah, and see what happens. But yeah, I thought it was a really good episode. Looking forward to the next one, seeing how they show the Gunko versus Straw Hat fight. One Piece chapter 1191. So in this chapter, you have Luffy who's still in Gear 5. Somehow I guess it's like Ichigo and Bleach with his Bankai. He kept Bankai when he was unconscious. So Luffy he's still in Gear 5. He walks towards Gabon. You know, basically, Gabon tells him to take the Straw Hats and leave Elbath. and Luffy says no. Basically, and he apologizes for Gabon losing his arm defending him. And Luffy asks who Emu is, and Gabon says he's not someone people should know about. If you had to call him something, it'd be God. Now Luffy's probably not gonna understand what that means, like, but with celestial dragons considering themselves as gods, that would be kind of like a description. Oh, Zebek said he's the world, you know. So you see Emu contemplating, he's the crew of the pirate king of the pirates, Roger. He said talks about he failed to foresee what would become of, as he says, children at God Valley, and he says he should have killed them all. So he undergoes a transformation and goes through a very monstrous form, and so meanwhile you have so Robin and Chopper taken by Saul to meet with Biblio. So all the books are saved, and Saul wants Chopper to interpret what Biblio's saying, and so you see all you see is who and Chopper's like huh. So I don't think it means that he can't translate. I think it means like he's probably confused by what Biblio's saying. Like he can understand him, but it's like it's probably some crazy crap that's being said. So Biblio, however old he is, maybe he knows a lot about the Void Century, along with Ragnar. Like Biblio and Ragnar. I mean, Ragnar definitely knows some stuff. Biblio probably does too. So, and Chopper being an interpreter could basically give a lot of exposition, which should, if we get like a Void Century arc narrated by Chopper, that'd be interesting. Which honestly in the anime would be it would be kind of comical just to hear Chopper's voice narrating like this epic war, which would actually kind of fit, which would fit One Piece. Anyway, so you see Emu in this monstrous form looks more like a demon, and so it says that it's impressive for Gabon to only lost one arm, you know, when facing like his power. Yeah. And he said, Gabon says, I couldn't let you go free after attack. Gabon's like, I give you a round of applause, but, yeah, he makes a joke how he's missing an arm. He's like, I give you a round of applause, but, missing an arm. Luffy's like, is that him? He looks different. Gabon tells him to leave. Luffy's like, he's like, I can't do that. Gabon says, Luffy's a dead man walking. And Luffy's like, you are too. And then where Emu tries to do an attack in order to kill Gabon and Emu, Hajiden arrives and attacks Emu, and then yeah, and he knocks him back a good bit, and yeah, so and Gabon tells Hajiden to get Luffy out of there. Luffy says he's not going running away. Luffy says he's healing up. And he says he's fighting on full stomach. He made sure to fight on full stomach so he can do it. Gabon's like, that ain't real logic. And then you see like some like bomb attacks, like so like a bomb like it hits hydrogen. So Emu like starts heading back, and hydrogen's like tells Gabon Elbaf won't give him. All the warriors are prepared to die in glorious battle. And Gabon's like, don't be stupid. You actually will die. And Hydra says if he dies, there's still Loki. Then Loki arrives. So you see Luffy's able to I guess recover a little bit. And so you have Luffy, Hydrogen, and Loki teaming up for an attack on Emu, and that's how the chapter ends. So yeah, this is a very good chapter. You have Hydrogen and Loki, I guess, having reconciled ish, and so Luffy's back in the game. this ain't gonna be the final round against Emu. They're like I don't think I don't think this is how Emu's ultimately defeated. I think he's leaving soon. Probably similar way to the way like Shamrock left Elbaf. Because I think the final fight against Emu will either be at Mary Joa or Laugh-Tale. One of the two. You know, or it could be a Fishman Island based off the vision that Charlie had, which I think that would be there in a Mary Joa arc, because Fishman Island's right below Mary Joa. Anyway, so yeah, I like this fight. I think will end pretty soon. As far as how many chapters this arc has left, it's hard to say. You know, I don't know how many it's gonna be interesting how they finish this out because there ain't gonna be too many chapters left. Um, because a lot of it will probably be based off the anime, like how many see like how many episodes they want, you know, for each anime season for Elbaf, because it'll take like 2 or 3 years to, including this year, to do Elbaf. Now 8 chapters because God Valley being 1159 through 1166, that takes 8 chapters probably away from the season. So unless they recut them into episodes, which I don't think is gonna happen, I think they'll just do something that like says that mentions God Valley happened, Zebek died, Harald's sad about what happened, and then the movie will show exactly what happened. That's how I think that will go. And so yeah, it's hard to say how many chapters this will go. If they do 26 episodes per season, and you have one chapter per episode, I would say maybe ends at 12:11, chapter 12:11. So that means there's like 20 more chapters left this arc. So actually, it might be going on longer than I thought it was. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what they do. But yeah, I thought this was a really good chapter. Looking forward to the next one. Ultimate Exorcist Kiyoshi, chapter 105. So in this chapter, so Kiyoshi's told about the chairman's grandson, Kiyano, who's like basically he's described as a thug. Basically, they do unlicensed exorcism. So and they charge for them. And basically, they're told, Kiyoshi's told to basically meet with, to try and meet with him, investigate, see whether or not Kiyano is the one responsible for the attack on the chairman, and the DCBs, like that's what his group's called. So go there, and then yeah, so Akari bangs on the door asking for them to come out because a cross paladin's there. So then the door opens, and then Kirano said, basically asks what business the cross paladin have with him, and basically he's like asks if Kiyoshi's gonna accuse him of stabbing his grandfather, and Kiyoshi says if Kiyoshi beats him, he'll tell him, or if he beats him and his two lackeys. So Kiyoshi's able to very easily beat all three of them, and like very easily. And then like the two lackeys are like they're screaming, they're like they like well there's like three lackeys. They're like, hey, you know, yeah, he didn't do it. He didn't do it. And Akari's like, why'd you attack us then? And they're like, well, opportunities to fight a cross paladin don't really come along this often. And so they reveal alibi. They help this old lady named Granny Setsuko, exorcise a demon and pull some weeds. And basically, Akira's like, wait, these guys might actually be like some nice guys. They just student unlicensed, and and then they're like, well, we do special ed rec classrooms every once in a while. And so then the DCB, which stands for Devil Clash Boys, they offer to help with the investigation. And Kiyono's been fired up about it because he doesn't win, but he wants to find. He'll stop at night to find whoever stabbed him. Yeah, yeah. So and so then they start working together, and so it's interesting what will happen next year. So yeah, once they introduce Kiyono, that like that early in this investigation, I was like, okay, this is a red herring. It ain't him. Like it ain't him. They're not. And I was right. So I was like, it was an obvious red herring. They were gonna try to introduce so we'll see who it is because it could connect to whoever the mole is. So yeah, I like this chapter. Looking forward to the next one. Ichi the Witch, chapter 95. So in this chapter, so you have Gokuraku fights Hakuri, and then so basically they then the fight, but Gokuraku's being Ichi catches him, then Destroyerz, easily whatever time Gokuraku's able to buy her, starts fighting Hakuri, and then interrogates, tries to figure out what 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 challenge must be done to acquire Hakuri, and then asks what does and basically it says Hakuri is a destruction magic, must find three shattered fragments of the magic stone and make it whole again, and three fragments are hidden in the tower. And then Descartes asks, as one of her magics asks, what is its connection to Fujime, and Hakuri says, Fujimine fears it, and basically Hakuri says, now that the witches know its trial, it'll try to kill them all. So yeah, so now you have to fight to get those shards, see what happens. But yeah, I thought this was a good chapter. So we reveal what the trial is. So there's probably gonna be something regarding each shard. If I had to guess, based on this being a shonen series, there's probably gonna be a fight at each shard. Like that would be my guess. Standard shonen thing, Yeah, you have different fragments having caught. There's gonna be one boss, basically like in gaming. You have one challenge or enemies to defeat or boss fight. At each fragment, and in this case, there's probably gonna be an enemy that has to be fought, where it's like a avatar of Hakuri's power. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, I thought this was a good chapter. Um, Looking forward to the next one. Under Doctor, chapter 29. So in this chapter, so Shuli's doing, still doing, studies, or whatever, and basically he, I guess at like the high school level, and yeah, Shuli wondering why he wanted to become a doctor, and basically he admired Haiji. And, he tries, and then Shuli tries to get help with studies. So he basically stuff like he doesn't understand. So asks for help. Everyone's busy. So basically, so it comes down with math. Basically, what's the confusing part right now is math. You have you know, quadratic equations where so simple algebra. Pretty simple in my opinion. So Kusumi's doing yoga. He's unable to help. And then he asks Chiwa, and basically Chiwa keeps getting phone calls, so that helps. So then Shui goes to Haiji, you know, and Haiji's like doing some work, and yeah, so and basically yeah, so Shui gets help, and basically Haiji asks if like Shui can help him clean up first, so they clean up, and then they Shui asks why Haiji became a doctor, and Haiji says he says, well, he mentioned how he came from a family of assassins, and basically, and he used like his family's eye abilities, adapted it, which is meant for used for assassination, adapted to use for medical purposes. And so basically, he couldn't forgive his own existence, so he decided to like become a doctor. And Shuli said, there's nothing wretched about his existence. So thinks how Haiji had a very similar backstory to him. So then they start working together, and so he decides to become the second best doctor in the world, with Haiji being the best. And then and that's it. So yeah, I thought this was a good chapter, good little slice of life chapter. So Shuli's doing studies. We'll see what happens. I don't know how long this series will go. Seems like it's still going on. Like I'm surprised. Like it's lasted like longer than I thought it would. I mean, it's a good series. Like I like it. Very good premise. But based on there's not like a major story going. I thought it was gonna get the axe, just because Shueisha likes to give stuff the axe. Yeah, So yeah, I thought this was a pretty good chapter. Looking forward to the next one. Anton's Magic, chapter 28, and full series. So in this chapter, so all the villains like they surrender. So like basically they they lose, surrender. So you know and so like and then this so after that Dua's like taken by the guards to basically it's real that the or Dua says the order of the apocalypse did all that, so they all get arrested and well taken to prison. So yeah, and the queen asks Line thinking that Line's the princess asks if she dare make it, and Line's like try on new look. And Kyoto introduces like himself to the queen. And so a few months later, you have Kyoto's grandmother's sent a letter, you know, basically saying he's doing fine, whatever. So you have the guild, the Iron Fanes, they haven't been getting as many requests by getting a big reward from the queen. Now the Seraphines are busier than ever, so, and yeah, and so Kaminagi has written like a book that's published in that magazine. And apparently whatever Kaminagi wrote, everyone reads it, and it's based on the premise, based on everyone's reactions, it's probably a like it just seems like it's like some erotic novel, whatever. Is what it's based on everyone's reactions, because they're like, what the heck? And and so and yeah, so and Kaminagi says she just wrote whatever her curiosity letter. And so but and then Kinato's doing some train with Z with a Zio, So Kinato goes back, and she's Line selling a bunch of like Kinato merch, and Kinato runs from all his fans. Yeah, so and then basically Gian arrives with like the quest, and so you know Gian and Kanto's shown he had written a letter to his like the letter say if he's in the area he'll stop by, and so he was gonna learn a lot about the outside world, meet a lot of his like make a bunch of friends with her, and so he's gonna continue his magic as an adventurer, and that's how the series ends. So yeah, I thought it was a decent chapter. Decent way to end the series. This is one that met the act, got the axe. I guess not that surprising. Suisha likes to end stuff like very early. This I'll say isn't as rushed as let's say Odor the Flame. That one was rushed as hell. Like holy crap, like how that got rushed. This one there wasn't much going on, so there wasn't a lot to rush. So yeah, it was a decent series. Not one that's probably gonna be memorable, but it's a decent fantasy series. Digimon Beatbreak episode 44. So in this episode, you have walls go. You have Kyo's fight with Kaido. Of course, their Digimon involved. So that fight's really cool. How like and you have and like so you see like all like also Tomura like is fighting and Gekamar fighting Helios Boamon and yeah so and then basically Reina fighting one of the five stars. So the little girl one, I can't remember her name. Well, I think it's Hanukkah. Think it's I think Hanukkah is what her name is. So like Hanukkah, I guess is she like has a crush on Kaido, and she accuses Reina of having one on Kyo, and it's implied to actually be true. It's not confirmed, but you have and then so Kyo and Reina win their fights. So yeah, Glowing Dawn going to conflict with the five stars. That's gonna be interesting. So then looks like based on what we saw, Tomura and Gekko are gonna be dealing with the Gokubon, his partner from the five stars. But yeah, I thought this was a really good episode. Like the fights this between all the Digimon. You have Kaido who Kyo thanks Kaido for not reporting Helios Boamon years ago. So we'll see what happens. Regarding the five stars, how like you know they'll react because there'll probably be there's gonna be if there's not a bounty on Glowing Dawn, there's about to be a bounty. But yeah, I thought this was a really good episode. Looking forward to the next one. Roku's House of Oddities, Chapter 19. So in this chapter, everyone from the Science Club, they fixed the washing machine, and they're all there, to flirt with Sachiko. And so everyone hangs out, all the curses, Roku, and all his classmates. So you see different all the stuff they're doing, basically, when it gets late, all the sides they stay for dinner. So they all they basically all have like a cookout outside, and like yeah, so you see her like hanging out, and then it's funny where like they try to ask Sachika if they could text her, and Sachika doesn't know what texting is, and they thought she was like rejecting them, and Roki's like, no, 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 she actually doesn't know what texting is, just and so yeah, and so they the Science Club, they all leave. Basically they say, hey, they'll definitely come back. So yeah, and that's Yeah, so that was like so it was a simple slice of life chapter, so everyone like leaves or whatever. Yeah, and I guess they ride the dog back to their houses, or whatever. So that was funny. So it's interesting. Now, question be how if they'll learn that their curse is, how their reaction will be if that happens. But yeah, I thought this was a good chapter. We'll see what happens. With the curses interacting with other people, because I guess that'll be a recurring theme for the rest of the series. So yeah, I thought that was a good chapter. Looking forward to the next one. Last to be here, Destroyerz, chapter 17. So in this chapter, uh, Prof invent invented these basically he's able to see I guess people's stats and I guess see things like like a game icon, or whatever, and then so you see like different people's stats. So yeah, then uh so then yeah, so then after that, so the teleporters are being repaired. So everyone's trying to repair the teleporters. Trying to figure out how I guess how they get back to like their world or like or at least maybe I guess teleport across this world. So we'll see how the teleporters work, but yeah. And then so after everybody something goes wrong with the teleporter, and then everyone gets transported away different locations. So that's how Prof comes across slimes, and then so everyone's trying to, and then you have Valerius is stuck inside slime. Kumon's will jump in, tries to get Valerius out, and yeah, so and then so Kumon Valerius, so Valerius is wakes up. So Kumon, Prof, and Valerius, they try to find everyone. They get some disguises, and yeah. So they ask about basically people are worried about I guess the Demon King or whatever. Yeah. So and then yeah. So then basically apparently there's like a hero in that they claim to be heroes, but they told there's another hero in town. One of the seven legendary dragons who defeated the Demon King Evan. So that's gonna be an interesting discussion when that guy sees Valerius. So yeah, I thought it was a good chapter. So we're getting beyond the castle or slash school. We're getting to like what's more beyond this world. So we'll see what else is in this world, besides that. So yeah, I thought it was a good chapter. Looking forward to the next one. Hal Formula Chapter 10. So in this chapter, so like you have Suzukaze like you have Hyakura like going around different turns, like he's basically you have yeah, Suzukaze, Hyakura, they're like racing, they're going back and forth you know, like they're going back, so you see how they're racing each other, so you see what's going on, so then basically so and, Suzukaze is just chasing after Hyakura, you know, and then so Haruka is saying that Suzukaze seems scary, and it's and basically he's told that there's two types of drivers. One's a craftsman that can master handling. Other one relies on instinct. The craftsman is the one's most likely to make a steady income as a professional, but the one that relies on instinct can conquer the world, and that can actually I guess be like more memorable, or whatever. So we'll see how that goes. and Suzakaze catches up with Hinokura, and then yeah, so basically then yeah, we'll see, and basically, so it looks like there's 7 minutes left in the race, so we'll see how the race will end. But yeah, I thought it was a good chapter. So they see like how the two are racing each other, like so we're about to see like if Caesar Kaze can like win, and how that affect him being taught. Now how that affects you know will there be an arc about him being trained, whatever, who knows, or if they'll end with him starting train, whatever. I mean, it's too sure they like to cancel stuff early. So yeah, I thought it was a good chapter. Looking forward to the next one. Hammaster chapter 9. So in this chapter, so you have all like you have like so basically then you have the so after you have the demon, like so the demon, the humans are fighting the demon, and then so then there's like this regolith kid, humanoid regolith thing that looks like a kid, like and has like a similar power. And then, basically, Barat and are told about the regolith called humanoid regolith called Regloid, and is asked if he's a Regloid. Yeah. So at least some mystery about Ur's origins. And so the demon that's called General Zakaf, so the Regoloid asks for treatment, and Regoloid's called I guess Master Soda. Yeah. So we'll see like what happens. So basically, so Soda just cares about Bao, doesn't care about the demon's plans. You know, and so Regoloid's like very arrogant. You know, well, it'll be interesting to see what happens. Basically, so it's they believe that is a Regoloid, and so if Regoloid's with the Minister, that'll give the humans a chance. So this says they must either retrieve Ur or and the Minister, or destroy them both. So, and basically, apparently, there are demon soldiers among the hostages that are in there as like sleeper agents or whatever. So it's gonna be interesting to see how they will disguise as humans or whatever. And then yeah, so yeah, so basically, looks like all the regulars are dead. You know, and then basically, it looks like there's like a Barat and Ruga sense you know, bloodlust. So it looks like the enemy's coming. So then looks like the demon spies are about to attack. So yeah, I thought it was a good chapter. I liked how they introduced the Regoloid, so it gives some hints at Ur's origins. We'll see how all that goes in later chapters. Yeah, Ur versus Soda could be a good fight. Thought it was a good chapter. Looking forward to the next one. Hunter x Hunter chapter 418. So in this chapter, so yeah, you have fourth princess Nick, uses Zetsu, I guess something regarding like his Nin ability. to fake his death when the first prince attacks everyone during the martial law. So like there's like a empty coffin. Well, it's not empty, but stuff that weighs. There's enough in it to give the same weight as like his body. So he basically fakes his death. You know, and then basically and so and, and so Schwery Nick had told like all his guards to tell things exactly as he saw, and then and basically and, basically so yeah so Schwernick is like infiltrate he had so yeah it's gonna be interesting how what happens. So like Benjamin like doing all this stuff. You have Salkov and Vanton. They argue about what happened. Um yeah, and so you have Schwernick. Basically is like using Zetsu to I guess stay alive a little bit. However, whatever's going on, I don't know. And basically someone seemingly able to so and like someone named Theta is seemingly able to see Schwernick. You know, yeah. So and then basically so Schwernick's trying to escape. However that happens, I don't know. So yeah, there's finally it looks like maybe they're wrapping up this whole secession bout. I want they should have dealt with this a while ago, in my opinion. I mean, these are decent chapters, but it is dragging. It is like it is dragging a little bit. I want them to finish it up already. Like, yeah, I thought this was a decent chapter. Looking forward to the next one. Let's go Kaikigumi episode 8. So in this episode, so you have Yukinko, who's like a Yukiona, basically a snow woman. I guess hung around Shiriko, and so comes across Doppelganger, offers to work with Doppelganger to kill Shiriko, and well, he hasn't worked. So Shiriko throws her into like the water, like this riverware. Then she goes to Mechiko, and Mechiko like basically grabs Yukiko and tells her to send a message to Shiriko, which is how is she, why does she go around wearing how is she able to go around wearing a skin tight suit? Which that was funny. I was like, really? She's still pissed about that? And yeah, so and you have and then you have sure Doppelganger still trying to regain his powers and unable to. It's kind of funny how they show that. Then after that, you have so you have Mechico going across this abandoned school, see this ghost girl who's knitting like a scarf and not making progress. So Mechico helps her make progress, so the girl's able to pass on, and Mechico keeps the scarf. Then later, there's like this rogue Grim Reaper that enters the protagonist's room. Mechico calls the Reaper police, or whatever, and the rogue Grim Reapers are dealt with before the protagonist returns. So yeah, I thought it was a funny episode. The little gags that were funny, like this. It's funny how the protagonist like had just dug up, shoveled out the snow outside, and you see the snow woman snow inside his room. That bit was funny. You have Yukinko's interaction with everyone was freaking hilarious, and so yeah, the Grim Reapers are funny. So yeah, that was a good episode. Looking forward to the next one. Kagurabachi Chapter 129. So in this chapter, so Rokuhira is still trying to, forge the swords, and like the flame is so hot, like, basically everyone's like, okay, maybe we need to stop it. Roku's like, no, this is what counts. We got we it, and basically eventually he's like, everyone's shocked at how he's kept his concentration despite the heat and despite what was going on. And basically it was like, yeah, we're past the point of no return now. And you have Rookie here reminiscing about Chiaki, how he wants to help her. Basically wants to show that he's actually, he considers himself worthy of her. But now he's like, when he's forced to he'll now see if he's actually, can be worthy of her. And so yeah, I thought this was a good chapter. You see, like it must have burned it, like making these swords. How the sword wielders, because obviously some of them, more of those characters I'm sure will be brought in soon, as far as like the people who wielded the swords. That part of this arc will be shown soon. But yeah, I thought this was a good chapter. You know, like how they're improving these swords. Hopefully the swords are forged soon. But even though it's taking a little bit, the way they're going about it is still so freaking good. But yeah, that was a good chapter. Looking forward to the next one. President Curtis, season 1, episode 4. So in this episode, so Curtis tries to, and Banks are trying to find, search the White House attic for George Washington's wooden throwing stars, and then Banks finds a purchase receipt for the Louisiana purchase, from Napoleon to Thomas Jefferson, and the fine print in it warns for the Americans to not enter a specific cave in the Rocky Mountains, and Banks ignores Curtis's advice to not investigate. So yeah, so yeah, that goes well. So but Banks goes to the cave, and of course Curtis and O'Doyle go as well, and because they're all curious as well. So then they get there, then they accidentally trigger a trap that violates the treaty, violates the agreement with Napoleon, and to allow basically a secret society led by Napoleon's descendant, du- Commandant Duloc, to try to reclaim Louisiana. So France, I guess, was ready to try to reclaim Louisiana. And so, Chomps is trying to gain control of his werewolf form. Dr. Finch is helping with that. So, and basically, Mark, Luc de Bergeron, who's the France's head of real estate acquisitions, tells Chris if the French get um Napoleon's preserved cock, um they can and serve as a citizen of the American court, they can get the land. So, Curtis and his group, they go to New Orleans, meet with Salem Montgomery, who leads a vampire coven that has worked with presidents in the past to find, basically define the penis, or whatever. Like, now, but Salem portrays him to the French, claims that, Jefferson, Mark Zuckerberg them, basically, I guess, like what Mark Zuckerberg did to gain sole control over Facebook, I guess what the reference is. Now, vampire named Elsie turns against Salem and helps Curse's group kill Salem and stop Duloc. Um, all the vampires, leave with Elsie when the sun starts coming up, and so yeah, Curse exiles Duloc and her followers from America, and he calls Bergeron, and so yeah, and so basically, the and yeah, so what happens? At the White House, Doyle shares some hot wings with Curtis, Banks, Chomps, and Janice, and they guess the wings all taste bad, whatever. Yeah, I thought it was a decent episode. The vampire stuff was cool. They're getting one of the things this does get into some stuff like conspiracies, whatever. You know, just to be real, if you're doing a Rick and Morty spinoff about the president, you should get into like stuff, like stuff, like X Files or where, like really, that's what this should be a parody of X Files. and stuff like that, stuff like that Art Bell would talk about, whatever. And I liked the stuff with the vampire, so that was interesting. So yeah, I thought that was a decent episode. Looking forward to the next one. Coyote versus Acme. So yeah, so this is like a movie that Warner Brothers shelved. Um and then they sold it to Ketchup Entertainment after they Ketchup also bought Day There Blew Up and released it. And so this is based off basically a fake news article called Coyote versus Acme. Basically it's about Wile E. Coyote suing the Acme Corporation. And so because in all the old classic Looney Tunes shorts with Wile E. Coyote, the Roadrunner, you know Wiley uses Acme products to try to kill the Roadrunner so he could cook it and eat it, but they all blow up in his face. And apparently that everyone, all the cartoons that use Acme products, everything blows up in their face, like all the cartoon products. And so you have you have the law firm Avery Jones and Maltese, which is a personal injury law firm in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Basically, they do small settlements that are like a few $100 or whatever, with Acme products. And so Wiley brings all of his all the stuff that's broken that takes it to Kevin Avery, who's like the senior partner there. Um, Kevin just wants to do it with just the jet skates or whatever. You have Kevin's niece and who's also an intern, Paige. Wants it to make it a big court case because really take down Acme. Kevin just wants to settle, like because he's like basically it's like they don't have the money to deal with someone as big as Acme. Now, basically, so and it becomes like a big case when Wiley takes puts all the stuff in the evidence box, which makes it instead of what normally like a $300 settlement turns into like a big one to where Acme's chief legal counsel, Buddy Crane, who was a classmate of Kevin at Harvard, so they know each other. It becomes a big deal. So he gets involved. Normally, someone lower would get involved. Buddy gets involved. That's John Cena's character. So it becomes a $50,000 settlement. Wiley refuses settlement and wants to take it to trial. Like he rips apart the contract and sets it on fire in the room. Yeah, yeah. But he's like, "This isn't funny. Cartoons are supposed to be funny." So the firm tries to get the Roadrunner to testify, but the Roadrunner just eludes them. And you have Acme CEO Foghorn Leghorn tells Buddy to not let the trial reveal any secrets, and basically the first day of the trial does not go well. Kevin receives a tip from a whistleblower. You know, basically it's Bugs Bunny. And anyone who's watched Looney Tunes could tell that it's Bugs Bunny based on how he talks and how he sounds. To meet with Daffy Duck, who used to do tests for Acme, who basically is in a insane asylum and you know has like a box with some Acme paint, and so you know Kevin, Paige, and Wiley take the paint and they find this so the paint like a tunnel, whatever. They go inside, find a message talking about Dr. Lori, Project Sisyphus, which is based off Sisyphus is named after a Greek mythology figure. He was cursed to like push up a boulder only for it to roll back. So, and then then Kevin learns that Wiley's entire motive to have the trial is to, when the Roadrunner is testifying, capture the Roadrunner so that you know like he doesn't care about the case. Kevin gets pissed because it's become a big deal, and basically if the he loses, the firm's closing down because they don't have a lot of money. And so Kevin lies to, Wiley saying that the Rower will, testify. And Paige meets with Lori's wife, Granny, who's basically has some like get basically shows Paige like an old Lori's old lab, so that when Lori was involved at Acme, there was actually safety. It was actually pretty safe, actually doing products, but once Foghorn took got in charge, things were not safe. Lori tried to stop it, but then it's revealed that basically the Acme was intentionally having some blow up in cartoons' faces, as cartoons can like survive wear, and then so to prove make products for regular people, and that and basically Granny hadn't seen Tweety Bird in a while, like in year, Tweety Bird and Lori in years. So Tweety Bird's first to work as like a hired gun for Acme, and so then Wiley, Kevin Page, they find out where the whistleblower's at, and it's at the Care Festival. So they meet Bugs, who explains that Sisyphus was testing using cartoon violence to improve Acme products for humans, and Lori was basically put into this hole or whatever when he spoke out against the ethics of like that program, and basically so Kevin tries to get the Acme's head PR, who's the Tasmanian Devil, on the stand. But Acme uses a ejection seat to get the Tasmanian Devil out of the courtroom, and the judge dismisses the case. And Kevin goes on a rant about this conspiracy, like to the press outside, and so the government calls for a congressional hearing in D.C. And Wiley agree. He first doesn't want to go to D.C., but Kevin says Rover will be there. But then he sees like Wiley preparing to eat, and Kevin gets mad, tells him he's the Rover's not showing up, and he admits he lied about to get Wiley's cooperation, and he tells Wiley he'll never capture Rover. So Wiley leaves, and Tweety Bird had tries to like get these animals drawn, but Wiley's able to like escape. And, Kevin tries to save saves Wiley, but it's like he gets knocked out. And then now Tweety like and some Acme thugs try to capture Roadrunner to get Roadrunner to testify, make it sound like Wiley was misusing stuff. So but it fails. It stuff blows up. Like they put birds on glue. It stays like literally. Yeah, we were yelling, we tweet, and then you had when John when Buddy basically talks to Tweet about having asks about Tweet's like I taught. He's like I don't pay you to think you taught. I pay you to talk. I did talk. Oh, what'd you teach? What'd you talk? Like that bit was so funny. Yet how John Cena didn't have the straight face, I don't know how. That probably took a few takes. Now at the at the congressional hearing, so Kevin, his stuff's kind of ripped, Buddy tries to bribe him $1 million to walk out, and Kevin says no. So and when so you have Elmer Fudd is a one of the congressmen, and so yeah, yeah, one thing that's funny. So when Bugs leaves, yeah, he tells when he tells he's like before at the when they meet Bugs, it's like, yeah, if someone fight, yeah, yeah, tell them it was a hunter with a funny hat, like totally referencing Elmer Fudd. So Elmer Fudd's like a senator where, and so Kevin gives a speech about when everyone's wondering where Wiley's at, Kevin's Wiley's he's talking about how he admires his determination despite all his failures, and Wiley hears it and enters the courtroom and basically so Kevin, tries to use Foghorn's like, his arrogance and gets Foghorn to admit to Project Sisyphus. And Foghorn argues that cartoons, like Wiley, to basically do that how they are, they could take a lot of damage and still be fine, and no one's gonna care if they're harmed, you know, and basically, he says it's improved like products for humans, and he's like, is anyone here actually care about about the Coyote? The Roadrunner arrives and testifies about what how Acme products have hurt Wiley, and he considers Wiley to be a friend, and he wonders when Wiley will come home soon. So Wiley, who has a trap set up, Rube Goldberg machine trap, he doesn't press a button to try to capture him. Now, since Wiley's the only plaintiff, Elmer Fudd says we ain't pursuing charges against Acme. So Roadrunner leaves. Wiley presses the button, activates the Rube Goldberg machine with Acme products, and humiliates the Acme team by trapping Buddy and Foghorn inside this cage. Now, when it's the team expects the firm to be closed down due to all the money they used all their money. But apparently, a bunch of cartoons are at the firm asking to sue Acme for damages, so public support, and then further evidence from Bugs along with all those lawsuits lead to a failed investigation. The FBI arrests Foghorn and Buddy. Buddy flicks off the camera, whatever. It's blurred out. They try to you can't you ain't gonna put a middle finger in a movie that's meant for kids, even though they did have some cuss words used a few times, which uh, should not be in a kids movie at all, especially a Looney Tunes movie. I mean, just like just shouldn't. And so Dr. Laurie's freed. He and Tweety reunite with Granny, and so Wiley returns to the to continue his chase with the Roadrunner. And so yeah, I thought this was a very good movie. I think it would have been better if it was all animation. So the mixing of how they mixed live action animation was done very well. I do think it would have been better if they did all animation like The Day the Earth Blew Up, which was the first theatrical release fully 2D animated Looney Tunes movie. And, now that movie's also a better movie than this, but this was actually pretty good. I liked how, which I was surprised. I was like, how the heck was James Gunn involved with this? Like the guy that made that terrible Superman movie, that terrible Supergirl movie. How the frick did he make this? To be fair, there were other people involved, so I don't know how much James Gunn actually was involved with this. So but yeah, like Warner Bros. They're retarded for for letting this slip through their fingers. I'm like David Zaslav, you are a freaking retard for letting this, you know, that is so stupid. This, hopefully this does well. This got more marketing the day the Earth blew up, so it's a higher chance, I think, of breaking even. Now, outside, the budget, the budget is like 5 times as much as Day the Earth blew up was. And I would say I really enjoyed this. Like I would say it's like an 8 out of 10. The using classic Looney Tunes clips, that was a nice touch. I really like that. And the Looney Tunes characters were freaking awesome. Wiley, Roadrunner, Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, Porky Pig. The Porky Pig scenes were freaking funny. Him getting smashed by by a wrecking ball, and then hi- him showing up to do a modeling gig for Daffy's Pain. That bit was funny. And, Daffy Duck was hilarious. And the Tweebird scenes were funny. Tweebird basically being like a merc was just hilarious. It was funny how as soon as Tweety returned to Granny's house, Sylvester immediately starts trying to eat him. And John Cena was awesome in this as Buddy. How he does all that with the straight face is great. And Will Forte is pretty good as Kevin Avery. And one interesting fact, so his name his last name is named after Tex Avery, who was an animator for very heavily involved the creation of a lot of the Looney Tunes characters, and so yeah, you have Sal Maltese. He's named after Michael Maltese, who's one of the creators of Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner. And Basil was of course one of the guys who created What's Opera Doc, which is one of the greatest Looney Tunes shorts ever. Well, Merry Melody shorts. And yeah, you have Dottie Jones, the other partner, who's named after Chuck Jones. One of Chuck Jones, one of the guys who heavily involved with Looney Tunes, Merry Melodies, like one of the voice actors, animators, whatever. Like, so all the lawyers are named after people involved with actual Looney Tunes, which is a you know people who have not watched the Looney Tunes need to watch the Looney Tunes. And Eric Bauza as like Foghorn Leghorn, Daffy Duck, Tweety, Elmer Fudd, Marvin the Martian, Bugs Bunny. Like Eric Bauza is did very well as he's very good as like the Looney Tunes characters. And Jim Cummings' brief dialogue as Tasmania Devil was hilarious. His testify was just funny. How everyone did that with a straight face, like I don't know how. But yeah, this is a great movie. I highly recommend watching it. Well, that's it. Did y'all like the stuff I reviewed? And if you have your own opinions about all that, you can put all that in the comments. Thank you for watching, and like, subscribe, and all that. And look forward to the next video.